Hey gang, Captain Jim Ross here. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode of Catch a Memory Outdoors. Captain Alex Hughey is my special guest, and we talk a little bit about how going the extra mile really pays off for our customers whenever we get out on the water. Hopefully you enjoy this show. Welcome. It's another edition of Catch a Memory Outdoors right here on WWBC 1510 AM. We appreciate y'all tuning in every Saturday, checking out what's going on up and down the Space Coast. I tell you what, it's going to be a great day. It's an overcast day, but we got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a really, really fun show. I'm Captain Jim Ross, and we appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. Welcome to those of you that are actually watching on Facebook, and you can also watch on YouTube later at CaptainJimRoss.com as well. Give us a call here. We'd love to hear from you. See what you've been doing. You've been catching fish. You've been out in the woods. You've been scouting for turkey. Got some guys already telling me they're seeing some turkey out there, so that's a good thing. 321-632-1000. That's 632-1000. You can get us here live in the studio. Captain Alex Hughey is in the studio with me this morning, buddy. I'm telling you what, I always enjoy having you on the show. It's such a big time having you because you are what I consider to be the epitome of a good guide.
Well, I appreciate
that. You are always going the extra mile. It's like, okay, what can I possibly do? How many things can I possibly make sure that I've taken care of in my business plan and my day plan for my customers to make sure that they're going to have a good day? And you know, when you see a guy like that, it's one of those things where that's the way I try to do my business, is to try to make sure that I take care of everything that I can possibly take care of to make sure that my people are gonna have a good time. And there are some guys out there that aren't necessarily doing it that way.
I completely get that.
So, man, when I see a guy like you just working and hustling, it just I kudos to you, brother.
Well, thank you very much, man. I really, really do appreciate it. You know, I learned a lot of it from watching how everybody else has done it throughout the years, and it's kind of sad to say, but being a fishing guide this day and age it's changed a lot. You know, you don't see it a lot. Like, you know, it used to mean something to be a fishing guide, and now it's fishing booker this and fishing booker that, and it's just different. It
is definitely
thing.
Well, I think in like anything, I think there is a need for guys to go out and do the extra.
Mm-hmm.
The average customer these days is not what the average customer was 15 years ago, or even 20, even 5 years ago. The average customer these days is a guy that's interested in fishing. They may have done some fishing in the past, but they're not necessarily hardcore fishing travelers, if you will. They're not flying to destinations to fish for certain species, and
here for Disney
they're
fishing
here
something
for
they pick up on the way.
Something else, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're here for the beach. They're here for Disney, the theme parks, whatever it happens to be. And then there is also a segue that since we're there, we'd really like to go take a fishing trip, and so you get a 4-hour day with a guy or family, and the hardcore guy isn't necessarily as readily available for us as charter captains. That client isn't as readily available anymore, and so we don't have people coming in and spending 4, 5, 6 days with us during their vacation like we used to.
No, you're completely right.
It happens once in a while. You get a guy comes in and books you multiple days or sometimes a week, but
that's the best ones.
Oh, it is.
Because they see everything. You know, you get a week trip with somebody 4 or 5 days, and then they're like, they see everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly sometimes, but most of the time it's, they see just different styles of the fishery.
They see
near
that
shore.
The struggle is real.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by the struggle is that the struggle as a fishing captain to produce day after day after day, that guy that comes in and books you multiple days sees that struggle,
mm-hmm.
because he sees the highs during the day, he sees the lows during the day, and sometimes it's you making a bad call, hey, I should have zigged when I should have zagged, kind of thing. Or sometimes it's just the fish.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, as you know, you can sit on fish for hours, and just about the time you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I've got to make a move. I've got to go do something else. They decide that they're going to eat now, and so that those when the customer sees the nuances of the business, I think they appreciate the trip a little more.
I couldn't agree more.
The on the boat, quick tour, catch a couple fish, back off the boat.
That's the guys you'll probably never see again.
Saw some dolphins, saw some pelicans, and they don't. They just think, oh, it happens like that every day.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how it is. If especially if you get on like a really good bite.
Yeah.
And hey, we got on fish, we saw dolphins, we saw pelicans, and we were only on the water 4 hours. And out of a 24-hour day, how many times does that happen?
Yeah. I mean, for it all to come together.
So it's interesting that I like I said, I really appreciate. And what brought that to mind was another captain that I was talking to on Thursday actually called me. We were fishing together in the morning, and then he called me a little later in the day. He goes, hey, where'd you go? And I told him where I went to, and he goes, what? And I'm like, I'm looking for fish.
Might be 40 miles away, but
I had covered about 40 miles at that point, but we were back on fish again.
Yeah.
And he goes, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, man, if you want to come on, they're here, come. And he's like, I'm not running that far.
Yeah.
Well, whether I'm not running that far meant I don't want to commit that kind of time to it, where I want to commit those kind of resources, burning that much fuel out of the back end of the prop, whether it meant I'm already on fish and so I don't need to leave, but normally when this particular person calls, they're not on fish.
Yeah.
That's when the call comes. As with many of us, I mean,
yeah.
A lot of times we're like, I am struggling, I need to call somebody, and to have a support group was a good thing, but I that's what got me thinking. He was just like, I'm not, maybe he didn't have that much time left in his charter
trip. Yep, that's what I was going to say too.
But when I told him, hey, come, there's enough that we can share.
Yeah,
and
that don't happen very often. Where I got a couple. There's a couple guys that you being one of them, where we'll kind of work together.
Yeah.
There's some others that it's like you could call them and tell them every day that it's just on fire, and they'll come right in. But man, the one day that you call them and you need them, it's like, man, I can't get a hold of their phone. They're not answering their phone.
Is it working? Yeah.
It's funny how that works, but.
So anyway, I had made this big run, and I had remembered. I think I called you about 2 weeks earlier, and you had been up one side of the river and down the other side of the river, basically, gone, all over creation,
looking for everything,
all over creation and back, and finally got onto a good spot and started catching some fish. And I thought to myself, there's not a lot of guys that seriously commit to putting that kind of an effort into it. And so when a potential charter customer goes to pick a charter, I don't feel like looking at what the captain's rate is a fair assessment of whether or not you're going to have a good trip.
Well,
if you're looking for cheap, there's a lot of that out there.
Yeah.
If you're looking for decent, there's a lot of that out there. If you're looking for the guy that's willing to go to the ends of the earth to try to get you a fish, that guy probably charges an extra $1 or $2.
Yeah.
And so when you look at rates, you go, okay. Yeah, I mean, as an outside customer, when I'm looking at something else, I'm looking at, I don't know, whatever it happens to be. I'm looking at doing whatever I'm going to do.
You're going to go do one yourself on another coast.
Yeah. I start looking around and I go, okay, who's charging what and why are they charging that? Is it the size of their vessel? Is it they've got better gear? Is it, there's a lot of things that you look at. And so websites tell a lot about what a captain is doing and what a captain is not doing. And,
in this day and age, social media.
And social media as well. If the guy's constantly posting fish, then, he's probably legit.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, and what I think most people don't understand is that extra dollar that we're charging, that doesn't go in my pocket.
No, it's going out the prop.
It's the more that I can put to the trip, the better experience you're gonna have.
And think about bait. Think about buying bait.
Oh, it's nuts.
If you show up and you got 2 dozen shrimp, what happens when the 2 dozen shrimp are gone?
You can cast net something, or you kind of
Maybe
make it by.
Or hey, we're ran out of shrimp, so we're gonna throw lures now.
Yeah.
And yesterday you and I were talking about this yesterday. I pulled out of the bait store and I had about $85 worth of bait, and I was thinking, is this enough? Mm-hmm. Do I have enough bait at $85 worth of bait? Do I have enough?
And you probably only had 2 people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had 3.
3.
Okay, but I was thinking, is this going to be enough to get me through a half-day trip? And I was thinking to myself, what I'm intending to do, it should be. But
then the bluefish are bad.
If the bluefish are bad, or something starts chewing your baits up, the jacks, then you're like, oh man, and you're burning through bait faster than you want to, and then you're like, oh, I should have doubled down on my bait. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of thought as I'm driving to the boat ramp in the morning. There's a lot of thought going into what do I need to have to be prepared for this trip.
It's a mental game
and
half the time
exactly
too.
The same thing.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest thing is, hooking up the boat in the morning, washing the boat at the end of the day, and taking people on the water. That's the easy part. The hard part is the mental game that you have going on, making sure that you made the right move, or if you didn't make the right move, then you made up for it in the end, because there's times where that happens. It's like we were fishing 2 weeks ago, and I was, Peter was out, and I was out, and he was going one way, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna run way far this way, and we must have covered literally 40 to 45 miles on the water, and we eventually found them. But dude, if I didn't have anybody on the water, that would have just been going by myself, running 40 miles one way, and then just to end up maybe the other way, and it's hard to make that decision, in 2 seconds. So you're sitting there kind of thinking about it and trying to figure out what you're going to go do. And,
my mental Rolodex of what am I going to do during the day is, the whole drive to the boat ramp. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna start here and then do this and then do this. Given the conditions that I'm seeing as I'm driving, or if it's dark, then you're thinking, okay, the wind's going to be blowing this direction. I need to do this, or I need to do that. I need to make sure I've got this kind of bait. I need to make sure I got that kind of bait. Hopefully, the fish are sitting, someplace where I can, get a bait to them effectively. There's just a lot of things that goes on in a fishing guide's mind as he's preparing for his day on the water with his
if
customer.
he cares about his day.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's, hey, jump in the boat and we're going to go,
same spot every day.
Same spot.
Same bait.
Milk run. We're going to stop here. Then we're going to go over here. We're going to go over here. And if we get fish, great. And if we don't, well, it was what it was.
Yeah. See that? And that almost beats me up worse. You go out, and, everybody has tough days. It's part of it. The days that are tough, it's like now you're sitting there thinking about what you could have done wrong, what the heck you're going to do the next day. And not to mention all the other stuff that you have on top of it. The emails, your phone's ringing. You got, I got to call this guy back. And that's the hardest part for me is the freaking mental part and trying to keep up with everything, and not only planning for tomorrow, but looking at the weather pattern and trying to plan for a week or two out. And then you have somebody that wants real specific style trip, and it's like, okay, well, what am I going to be doing to make that possible, and is it even possible? And today,
and you're collecting data from
years,
yesterday, the day before, the day before that. Okay, and how do I extrapolate some of that and then put it into the type of trip that this particular person wants? That's what makes a good guide. The guys that are doing that, the guys that are constantly thinking, that's what makes a good guide. I applaud you for being that guy.
Well, I really appreciate that, man. I try, look at it as, I didn't grow up having a lot of money. I've grew up and I take what I charge very seriously, and I enjoy it. It's not doing it to make a ton of money. I do
Well,
it
you
because
won't
I
ever make a ton
you
of
will-
money.
you won't.
Not at this job.
But I like it,
Yeah.
and I get more enjoyment seeing other people catch.
We are
over
very
me.
fortunate.
Very.
We get to go to work. We don't have to go to work. That's a huge difference. That one word in that sentence, when you get to go versus having to go, that is where we get our pay. That's truly why we do it.
No, I completely agree.
What we charge just helps us be able to
helps me
maintain
be able
our
to
equipment
take-
and
yep.
buy the bait and buy the fuel. It's the getting to go that is the payoff for us. Well, guys and gals, we'd love to hear from you. Captain Alex Hughey's in the house. Give us a call here if you got any specific questions you'd like to ask either him or myself. And we're going to be right back after these messages, so don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. This segment of the show is sponsored by Lamb Deck. And, you know, I was sitting on my boat yesterday, and I say this every week because I'm enjoying this Lamb Deck so much on my boat. It's so soft on your feet, such a good cushioning effect. But it cleans up so easily. So one of the guys out on the boat yesterday dipped snuff or dipped chew or he was putting tobacco in his mouth. Well, he's spitting, and he's not getting it all the way out of the boat. Well,
Makes a nice stain on the non-skid.
yeah, so I'm kind of cleaning up. I'm not saying anything. He's trying, but it's just not getting overboard. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to clean it up a little bit, and I'm like, man, this stuff's going to stain. And it didn't. And I was like, that's pretty wild. I mean, didn't let it sit and bake all day.
Yeah.
But, I'd see some and I go, oh, I need to get the bucket and I got a little hand brush and kind of
I keep one of those old Starbright rag. Wash.
touch it up, and it was like, okay. It's still coming up off of this stuff. So I was pretty impressed with the way that it wasn't staining, even with something like tobacco that stains pretty heavily. But about midway through the day, one of the fellows that was on with me says, man, what is this stuff on the boat? He goes, I've never seen this before. And because he's from Manitoba. Okay.
Holy smokes.
So they have aluminum boats up there, a lot of aluminum jet boats and stuff like that to run those rivers and things. And I said, well, it's called Lamb Deck. It's an EVA non-skid decking. And he's like, I wonder if they can put this stuff on a metal boat. Because
So why
we
not?
just have grip tape there. And I'm like, if grip tape will stick to it, then this will stick to it. So basically what he was saying was that on his boat, they have something that kind of looks like what you'd put on the deck of a skateboard.
Yeah.
That
It's real rough and it gets real hot.
Yeah. And he says, this stuff is great. And I was like, yep. It's just kind of one more confirmation that it was a good choice, because if the customer is paying attention to it and saying that they're liking it, then, it's just one more bonus. So I'm telling you guys and gals, if you get a chance, give the guys, Tom and Jaden up at Lamb Deck a call up in Titusville. You're going to be impressed. Even if you just put in like a helm pad, just, while you're riding from spot to spot, it's just so much more cushion on your legs and your back and everything. And like I said, it cleans up a whole lot easier than I ever anticipated. So give those guys a call, 321-505-4888. That's 321-505-4888. And you can get Lamb Deck put on basically anything that you have, I guess, I mean, I've got it all over the deck of the boat. I've got it on the gunnels. It makes, stepping in and out of the boat so much easier for my clients.
I mean, it's even good for freaking pontoon boats and with your kids. It quiets everything down.
That's the other thing. Everything is so much quieter. And if you drop something on the deck, it's so much quieter.
Yep.
So it's good stuff. Check out the EVA non-skid marine decking from Lamb Deck. You guys and gals will be impressed. Tell them you heard about it on Catch a Memory if you talk to them too. I want to say good morning out there. Didn't say that earlier, but quite a few people listening in and watching in on the show this morning. And it was kind of funny here. Who was it? Larry Carter.
Yeah.
Ran all over the river to get the fish. Thanks for the hard work. So there, that was Larry's.
That was last week.
Thanking you for doing that. And then here was another one, Joey Mundo. The last charter I went out on, I ended up throwing the net to catch bait because the captain was serving up tacos.
Hey, I've had my fair share of days doing that, though.
Let me get my customers to start throwing the
I
net.
never had my customers throw the net, no.
Well, it's good that he knew, he was able to do that.
I've had a rough day with the net a time or two, though.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to say good morning to a few guys out there. Tim Lessing, Calvin Hall, Matt Webster, Greg Vincent, Shay Hobby, good morning to you guys out there. Captain Kyle Weaver, Sean Scribner Sr., Butch McCoy, Darren Bolton, Bo Bergeron. David Giovannini. So David has been a long time viewer, I guess, of the show. He's been on the Facebook feed for a long time on Saturday mornings, and so finally got to put a face with a name. Took him and his son Peyton out, and just had a fantastic morning. Enjoyed the heck out of having those guys on the boat, and so I just want to say thank you to him for being one of our listeners, but also giving me a call and going out on a charter with me. It was really, really nice. We had a good day, caught some decent fish, and it was one of those days where we had to do a little bit of running to find stuff. But you get if you lose fish, can't find them anymore, it's time to go look for some other fish somewhere else.
Well, in the wintertime in particular, that changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It probably changes more so than any other time of year.
Yeah. For me, the fish, because they're so grouped up in the wintertime, there's so much area that does not have fish in it.
90% of the water is blank.
Yeah.
10% is where all the fish are at.
Great example. One of the show's listeners, Jesse Dance, was out on his boat. He hadn't been out on his boat. He's got a little, pole and skiff. Hadn't been out on that boat in a number of years. Finally got back out on the water in it the other day, and tried a pretty sizable area of flat, and only saw one redfish all day, this whole trip.
That's freaking slow.
Yeah, and he was, up around the Titusville to Mims area, pulling those flats, and he said he saw one red all day. So, but he didn't give up. That's the thing. You pull this flat, you pull that flat, you trolling motor down the flat. Sometimes if I'm not seeing anything, I just turn the trolling motor on.
Oh yeah,
and I'll just start buzzing down the flat until I start lifting fish. And you go 300-400 yards and 500 yards, and you don't lift anything. It's like, okay,
it's time to go.
It's time to pick up and go somewhere else, because if you haven't found a fish or two within 500 yards,
they ain't there.
They're not there at all. You need to make a sizable move, if you will. And so interesting stuff, though. You know what? So this time of the year, snook have just come back in season, and snook. You and I both love chasing the snook, but snook fishing can be snook can be finicky.
They be weird sometimes.
And some days you'll only get a 5 or 10 minute, maybe 15-minute bite, and the rest of the day they don't eat. And it makes no sense to me whatsoever why that happens, because there's other times when you can catch them all day long. But yesterday was one of those days where it seemed like it wasn't an all-day bite.
No.
Where we were at anyway.
Yeah, it was.
Now, you fished Sebastian yesterday.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that's been the water temps are so like really, really cold for this time of year. I mean, we get cold water temps, but even though the warm up the last couple days, the water hadn't really come up a whole lot.
I think the reason for that is when we're getting our north winds. If you think about a regular year, we get a front comes through. We get a northwest, maybe for a day and a half. Then it switches to north, then it switches to northeast, then it switches to east and southeast, and it's a 5-day cycle. And the east and the southeast sometimes blow just as hard as the north.
Yep.
Well, this year it's been a lot more north wind for 3-4 days, 5 days at a time. And then it goes east and then southeast and southwest all in one day, and then the next front comes through. And it's like that east and southeast wind isn't able to counteract all of that north wind.
Yeah.
And so when you start getting that longshore current flowing down the beach from north to south, when you start moving a piece of ocean and it's moving all in one direction, it becomes really difficult to slow that, stop that,
and turn it
and
the
then
other way.
reverse it around. And like you say, our temperatures at Canaveral this year have been consistently 3 to 5 degrees lower than in years past. And of course, we are just coming off of last year. And last year was like a banner, Chamber of Commerce type year when it comes to water temperature was perfect for the snook, the triple tail, the flounder,
big
the
red
drum,
fish,
the big reds. It was perfect for everything. And, and the fish were enjoying it. And they were, whenever you come off of a great year like we had last year, and then you come into a tough year like this year, it seems like it's compounding, exponentially in some cases how much more difficult it is to try and get the fish to bite sometimes.
And we were in the river the other day, and it had, we had that north wind blowing for 3 or 4 days, real hard. And then I went out on the calm day, and I kid you not, like, we're leaving the ramp, we go under one of the bridges, and the water is screaming back north.
Yeah, the
because
other
it
direction.
had pushed so much water down south. And, we don't have tides, so wind-driven current is the best way to explain that.
Yeah.
And it pushes all the water and funnels it down one way, and when the wind stops blowing, it has the adverse effect. So the harder the wind blows out of the north, the harder you can expect the water to come back to the north when it stops.
That at especially at the 520 bridge.
That's the bridge we were at,
where you've got a really wide and deep section of river. The deeper it is, it seems like the more flow you get. The shallower it is, there's less flow. And so when you get up to, a place like the Parish Park Bridge, you don't quite see it as much because you've got huge flats on the east side. Yeah, you still got some deeper in the middle, but the whole thing is not deep. So you see almost different flow rates, and then also the amount of constriction that's being, provided by the actual bridge opening. Obviously, that
makes a huge difference.
Well, but you're right. That reverse flow can be.
It can be good sometimes.
Yeah.
Because those fish aren't used to having any kind of flow, so when they have flow, it
especially
almost
if it's
washes
moving bait to them.
Yep, it moves to them. Yep.
Yeah. Well, guys and gals, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we've got a whole lot more, so don't go away. Give us a call, though, 321-632-1000. We would love to hear from you this morning. We're going to be right back with Alex Hughey and myself, Jim Ross, so don't go away. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. This segment of the show is brought to you by Sun State Pest Management. And Sun State Pest Management, one of those companies that been around a long, long time. Steve Goff is the owner of it. Great guy, loves to fish, and also loves to make sure that your house is free of bugs and pests and rodents and things of that nature. So if you're looking for a really, really good company that you can trust, give Sun State a call. Let them take care of your pest problems. And what it does is it keeps you from having to keep product around your house that your dogs, cats, kids can get into. Let them come out and put the right amount, right type of product down for the type of problem you have, and then they're gone, and you don't have to worry about it the rest of the month. So give Sun State Pest Management a call. They're super easy to get a hold of. They've got an 800 number. Not that really matters anymore, but it's 800-781-7378. That's 781-7378. So by that 800 number, you can tell they've been around a while. There's a company that invested in an 800 number back in the day.
Dang, I never even thought about that till now. Yeah, you ain't lying.
Because when was the last time you had to actually pay long-distance rates?
I mean,
it's been a while.
Yeah, I don't even.
So this company has been around a while. You can trust them to be around for you, too. So give them a call. Hey, and the other thing, the Petrucci Insurance segment the advertisement just ran on the last break. I want to throw a personal shout out there to Don and Virginia at Petrucci Insurance. My son Justin just bought a new car, okay, and it's like 4:30 in the afternoon on Thursday, and he calls me and he says, "Hey, they need me to have insurance for this car." And I'm like, "How can you buy insurance for a car you don't own?" And he's like, "Well, he goes, I don't know, but they're telling me I have to have insurance before I can pull the car off the lot." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you need to call Petrucci Insurance right now and get them on this, and hopefully we can he's over in Orlando
Mm-hmm.
trying to buy a car, and he got dropped off to buy the car and pick it up and drive it home.
So he's got to have a way home.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ride home.
Yeah.
So my wife dropped him off, and then she had an appointment she had to go to. So long story short, Virginia gets on the phone. So to kind of include a little more information into this, his truck was co-owned between me and him. Okay, and he's had that truck for 7 years, 6 or 7 years.
As long as I've
he's had
seen
that
him
truck.
guiding.
Well, because we were co-owned, I had his truck that he drives, or the truck that he drives, under our commercial insurance policy. Okay, because we're using them as commercial vessels or commercial vehicles, pulling our commercial vessels back and forth to the port. So it's a commercial policy versus a regular policy. That way you're covered properly, and you don't get stiffed in the end, if you will. So I send over a copy of my insurance card. He says that they can't use it. My name's not on it. I can't use your insurance on my car, to show proof of prior insurance. So anyway, I was like, I'm driving. You call Petrucci Insurance. In like 15 minutes,
They had a handle.
they had it taken care of. Virginia was on it. She got him taken care of. All she needed was the VIN number, blah, blah, blah. Done. Here's your policy. Ready to go. Emailed it to him on his phone. He emails it to the guy at the deal. He's sitting in the dealership. Emails it to the sales manager at the dealership. Sales manager prints it out. Good to go. I mean, that fast. That fast made it happen. So thank you to Petrucci Insurance for doing that. That was really, really. I mean, you're coming up at 5 o'clock. You're pushing against the bell, and made it happen.
That's awesome.
So I can't say enough nice things about how they'll try and do whatever they can to help you out. So give them a call. 632-1200 is their call-in number. 632-1200. Give them a call, and man, it just goes to show you what kind of business that is, going over and above. We're gonna go to the phone lines because it sounds like Captain Mike Mann's on the line.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you today?
I'm great.
I'm doing pretty good.
Alex says he's great. We want to know if you're underwater yet or not.
No, I am in the truck about to hit I-4. We're going to the West Coast today. So.
Okay. I didn't think you were going to be in Mesquite Lagoon looking at the radar.
No, it's just starting to rain up this area, and I've done about an 11-day stretch, so I'm kind of happy to have a couple days off and get back to it next week. We've actually had really pretty cooperating weather all week. It was pretty cooperative, and the fish were cooperative. It was a pretty good week of fishing.
Well, good. I know that you were on some good black drum last week when you called in. Did that kind of hold out for the week for you, or did you switch over to something else?
No, that held out real well through the week as well as we got in some redfish, found some schools of redfish, and then, we were kind of switching things up, getting up in the creeks and catching snook and baby rat reds and trout and snapper and everything else. We just had a fun week, and the problem is anybody who wants to keep a black drum, everything I've been catching lately has been 26 inches and greater. I mean, big black drum.
Yeah. Not as easy to keep those for sure.
Yeah, which is fun. I like to catch and release as much as I possibly can, so that kind of works in my favor. It's too big.
Yep. Hey, Mike, real quick, you're talking about snook, and Alex and I were just talking about how we've had lower than average water temperatures along the near coastal waters, along the beaches and near coastal waters, inlets. But the lagoon itself doesn't necessarily seem like it's been overly cold. It seems like it's about what it
just
normally
drastic
is.
with the weather. It's
Yeah.
either good
So
or
how are
cold.
you getting these snook to bite? I think the listeners out there and the viewers out there are going to be pretty interested to know, how is Captain Mike Mann getting snook to bite in the middle of January and February in the flats and creeks in New Smyrna?
And that's kind of the key to it, is I'm not fishing a lot of the docks where you can see some big snook. But getting those snook to eat is, you've got to get the timing down of exactly when they want to feed. Once I'm getting up in the creek stuff, I'm actually just getting on a small, quarter ounce to 1/8 ounce jig head, depending on the depth and the current,
Mm-hmm.
and a shrimp, and just a nice, not even jumbo shrimp, just a nice large shrimp, and we're feeding them back to them. The other thing we've been getting to eat is a small, either rubber shrimp imitation, or a small paddle tail.
Gotcha.
And it's just being very patient with them. The snook typically are not eating first thing in the morning, but once that sun gets up, I don't care how cold it is, eventually they have to eat. And so when you get a little bit of sunlight and a little bit of warmth on the water, that's when they'll tend to eat and move around a little bit more.
Yeah, all the fish are that way. You give them sunshine, and they're way happier than they are when it's overcast at this time of the year. Yeah.
When he nailed it with the small presentation when because they're still going to eat, but their appetite and metabolism definitely slows with cooler temps. So.
Yeah, like in July, you can feed, a 32-inch snook, 33-inch snook. You can feed them an 8-inch mullet.
Mm-hmm.
This time of year, you put an 8-inch mullet will be sitting there hanging out with them.
It'll die on the hook before before they try to bite it.
Yeah, they're not going to eat anything, because they can't metabolize that food as fast because they're not burning as many calories, and so they're not eating it because basically it's just going to sit in their gut. So they're eating smaller bites, and that's what they tend to go for.
So just light jig head, medium-sized shrimp. Just something big enough to entice them, large enough to see on the hook, that kind of thing. And then you're just kind of leaving it in the zone where you see them sitting, or that they're sitting if you're back way off of them a little bit. You're just leaving it in that zone.
I've got areas where I know they're sitting just, from over the years of fishing there. And that's kind of what I'm doing. All right, guys, we got a shot. There should be some snook sitting in here. And I have not been doing – I don't fish the docks as much as a lot of guys do, just because I feel like those snooks see so many different presentations, and we've hit a point now where we've got a really large, nice snook population especially in the upper Mosquito Lagoon, and even in the southern now, we've got a good snook population. Where when I first started guiding back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had snook, but it was more something you'd get around the inlet, and every now and then you'd get one down in the river, but it wasn't, really a targetable fish unless you got up in certain areas, like say Hybrid which was actually way north.
Yes.
So
yeah,
and now it's a really good population of big targetable fish. There's guys that are specialists in it. I'd love to say I'm a specialist in it. I'm not. I know how to catch them, and I can catch them. Tarpon's my jam.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I know how much you love chasing the tarpon, because you will do everything in your power to make sure that you're putting people on tarpon whenever the tarpon are available.
Yeah, that's my addiction. I love those things. And hopefully that season's starting just around the corner, not too long. But hopefully before that, we got cobia season going to kick off. If we ever get a little warmer water along the beaches, it was. I think Monday or Sunday I tried sliding offshore. It was a little bit bumpy. We had, 62, 63-degree water temperature.
Yeah, it wasn't
in
quite
the lagoon,
right.
when I finished up yesterday, we had 67 or 68-degree water.
Gotcha.
It's too bad that's not sliding on the beach.
Boy,
That'd be perfect.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Well, buddy, we are up against our next break. How does somebody get a hold of you and get out there? And sounds like you've got a couple of days open to be booking for cobia next month. Is that something that you're starting to book up for?
That is correct. Yeah, in March I've got the last 2 weeks. All I've still got available. This coming week, if you want to reel some black drum or some redfish, I still have a couple days available. And you give me a call at area code 386-295-5991. You go right to my website, fatfishguide.com. Follow me on Instagram, CAPT, Mike Mann with 2 N's, and Facebook, Fat Fish Guide Service. Guys, get out there, catch your memory, have a great weekend, and hopefully that NASCAR thing can go in circles today.
There you go. Well, hopefully so. Well, buddy, you drive safe, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next week whenever you get a call back into the show.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Jimmy. I will talk to you guys later.
Take care, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
I know. Hey, gang, time for another break. We're going to be right back with Captain Alex, and we'll have our wrap-up for the first hour of Catch a Memory in this next 15 minutes, so don't go away. We're going to be right back. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. This segment of the show is brought to you by Engel Coolers. If you haven't checked out the new Engel, it's a new 60-quart light. They call it the UL 60. We had it on the show a couple of weeks ago. You can check it out on the YouTube channel if you want, or go back to the Facebook feed from a couple of weeks ago. I tried it for the first time on Super Bowl Sunday and was really impressed with it. It's thinner, lighter, but it still holds ice just as long. It's a newer technology, if you will. And what's really cool, one of the things I really like about it, and I didn't think this was going to be this big a deal. You know how when you're trying to stand bottles and cans up in your cooler, they don't ever want to stand up. They always want to fall over because the inside floor is angled to go to the drain, which is really cool. That way water's not sitting in the cooler. It's always draining out, keeping the ice dry and not letting it saturate itself, keeping the ice longer. That's one of the factors that just keeps the ice longer, is keeping the water off of it. So the new floor is raised with slats. The slats in it, or the grooves in it, are angled down to the drain plug, just like the old ones. But the slats that are in it are level, so you can stand everything up, and things aren't falling over all the time.
That's pretty nice.
It was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And so, we had a couple of different drinks and things in there and put some ice in there. And I was like, man, you don't have to fight them. Because most of the time you're fighting those things to get them to stand
rolling
up.
all over the place.
Yeah, or you just lay them all down, and then you have to dig through the ice to get them because the tops aren't. If it's just the top sticking out, then you can see what the top of the drink is, and you can pick the one you want, whether it's a Yoo-hoo or a beer or a Coke or whatever, And so it was really neat to see how that thing worked in a real world situation. And I left it in the house. I didn't drain it, and it still had ice in it on Wednesday.
That's pretty good.
From Sunday midday.
Yeah, it's really good. It's better than most coolers.
And like I said, I didn't drain it. And so when I finally ended up taking everything out of it and just putting it back in the refrigerator, it still had a little bit of ice left in there and a lot of cool water.
That's what I use on my boat instead of, they make the nice fiberglass coolers and stuff, and they don't hold ice worth crap. So I got 2 Ingles. One on the front with a cushion and one on the back.
Well, let's check out the fishing and boating conditions real quick. So today, this whole weekend's going to kind of it's going to be shot pretty much. It's not going to be fun weather. Although I saw that, was it Sean Scribner Sr. was out I think he was out this morning on his kayak, I think is what he said, but that was kind of interesting. Anyway, long story
Eric's offshore.
Eric Myers?
Yeah.
More power to him.
Yeah.
Bring your slickers and your foul weather and your life vest. That's for sure. Anyway, we got north wind 5 to 10 today. It's going to become about 10 to 15 by this afternoon and evening. It's going to stay that way through tomorrow. It looks like seas at the 20-mile buoy are supposed to be 2 to 3 feet with a dominant period of about 10 seconds. It may or may not be, and here's why I say that. Yesterday, so let's look at the 4-mile buoy. Yesterday, the 4-mile buoy was saying it was 62 degrees, and it was 1 foot at 13 seconds.
Yeah, not seen that.
It was not 1 foot at 13 seconds.
No.
I think there were waves coming from every direction yesterday. It was an absolute washing machine. It was 1 to 2. It wasn't bad as far as the height goes. The swell was about a 12-second swell at about 2 feet. But there was a north chop / wave coming in at 1.5 foot every 3 seconds.
It stacked it up.
There was an east wind chop at 1.5 to 2 feet. That was coming in every 3 to 4 seconds. And there was a south 1 to 2 foot chop with the wind pushing it at 3 to 4 seconds. It was difficult to even stand up in the boat first thing in the morning. It was you were in a washing machine. I think the only direction the waves weren't coming from was down. I mean, I couldn't believe how the boat just sat there and just jostled all over the place. It was like like you were shaking a snow globe. That's what it felt like sitting in the boat yesterday.
It's probably why I feel like I got hit by a bus.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you sore. So, man, you have to kind of take the conditions with a grain of salt sometimes. Now, I don't know what it is out there today, but I know yesterday morning in particular was
not as nice as I was thinking it was going to be.
Really bouncy for a center console 25 foot or less in size, or a bay boat. Going back to it though, 4 mile buoy this morning says it's 64 degrees, so it's come up 2 degrees, probably due to that south wind that we had all day yesterday and a little bit through the night. Seas are 2 feet at 12 seconds. 20 mile buoy, 71 degrees, 2 feet at 11 seconds. So now I'm looking at the 4 mile buoy at 64, the 20 mile buoy at 71. Magic temperature for Kobe is 68 degrees.
Yeah.
My next door neighbor's azalea bush is blooming. 68 degree water temperature. Azaleas are blooming. Cobias have got to be somewhere close. They've got to be somewhere close by, because those two things don't happen in conjunction without the cobia showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see that bush start blooming, like they don't have a bloom here and a bloom there, but right now it's loading up. That's telling me we better get ready for cobia, because it's going to happen.
Hope so.
And it may not be close to shore. It may be out on the reefs.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere it's happening.
Best I've ever seen it in my entire life was end of January. And it was offshore quite a ways on a big rip, manta rays, and it was as good as it ever gets.
Yeah. So for those of you guys and gals out there getting ready for cobia season, it may get here a little quicker than what you anticipate. So if there's a day you can get out, don't let it slip by, is what I would recommend. Going on with the Western Edge, looking at 40 miles out of Ponce, 29 out of Canaveral, and 24 out of Sebastian. The current surf temperature at Ponce is 61, Cocoa Beach is 63, and Sebastian is 67. Is that right? What were you reading yesterday at Sebastian?
64 by the end of the day, and the river was 67, 68.
Okay, maybe it's reading the outgoing tide then.
Yeah.
Rather than the incoming, because it seems to me like the beach is a little cooler.
Beach was definitely cooler. Yeah, it's in the morning.
Okay. Because this is it's telling me 67, but I'm thinking that's an outgoing tide scenario.
And it might have come up with a couple degrees within the last 48 hours.
Yeah,
that's possible.
That could be too. That could be.
It's only a couple degrees.
Tides look like this: 8:22 a.m. is the low, 2:02 p.m. is the high, and 8:08 p.m. is the low this evening at Canaveral. 8:07 a.m. is the low, 1:58 p.m. is the high, and 8:37 p.m. is the low this evening at Sebastian. And the solar tables, which are typically the best times to be out on the water if you're trying to fish, or if you're trying to be in the woods and do a little hunting, presented by All About Archery down in Melbourne. 6:28 p.m. is the major this evening, and 6:28 to 8:28 p.m. is going to be the major. Now, right now, though, there's a major going on this morning from right about, it's kind of ending right now, but you may get another couple of minutes out of it. But the major this evening, 6:28 to 8:28, and then the minor in the middle of the day is from 11:39 a.m. to 12:39 p.m. And that way you guys can get out there and try and get on the water whenever you need to be on the water or in the woods. Like I said, I talked with Gary Brown, a friend of mine, and he's starting to do some scouting for his turkey season, and he's saying that it looks like it's going to be a pretty good season. He's trying to pick out anywhere from 4 to 6 gobblers that on the area that he's scouting, and that way given whatever the conditions are, he can try and pick and choose which gobbler he wants to try and go after. So he spends a lot of time in the woods, just walking around, listening, just watching.
Watching.
Yeah. And told him if I get a chance, I'll get out there and do some with him. Looks like maybe Monday I'll get a chance to get out there if I'm not on the water. So
That's something I'd like to do. I've never. I don't get to do much. I don't get to do much at all. I don't usually have a lot of
just
time.
fish.
But not that I'm complaining. I'm perfectly happy with that. But hog hunted here and there, and
Yep.
never done the duck thing because I really don't like the taste of ducks. But if I got somebody that wants to take them, then that's a different story. It looks like a lot of fun.
So last year we went over to Blair's before we go to the top of the hour break here. We went over to Blair's and he made duck stroganoff. That was pretty good. Pretty darn good. And of course, it's hard to, the poppers, the duck poppers with the cheese and jalapeno and bacon wrapped around
Had them
it.
quite a few times.
Yeah, there's some, some of them are a little.
They're just gamey.
Yeah, a little gamey, and then some of them are really good. Just depends on the type of duck. So
Depends on how much cream cheese and how much jalapeno you put.
how much bacon you wrap around it,
You
right?
ain't lying.
Get the thick cut.
Yeah.
Hey, guys and gals, it's the top of the hour. This has been the first hour of Catch a Memory. Captain Alex Hughey and myself, Jim Ross, are going to be right back with a whole nother hour of Catch a Memory, so don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch a Memory Outdoors. This is the second hour of the show, and we want to say thanks to Blue Points Marina. Appreciate those guys and gals out there at Blue Points being a sponsor of this segment of the show. So if you get a chance to check it out, looking for a place to keep your boat, swing by there and take a look. See if you don't, you should appreciate what you see out there. Those guys do a really good job of getting boats in and out of the dry stack, in the water, getting you ready to go, loading you with ice, whatever you need in the cooler, they throw it in the cooler for you. You got to fuel it yourself. But other than that, it's pretty much a one-stop shop. They just get you in and out and away you go. So thank you to Blue Points for sponsoring this segment of the show. I'm Captain Jim Ross. For those of you that are just tuning in on the radio or on the Facebook feed, we appreciate that. Captain Alex Hughey is in with me this morning. We've been talking a little bit about wintertime fishing and the concerns that you have on a daily basis to make sure that you're getting in the water and getting to a productive area. And if that productive area doesn't work, not just settling. And Plan B, and sometimes Plan B is a long run, to get to the next group of fish that you think you can have success with. Yeah. Well, Alex, we were talking about that. Now, we're coming into the springtime, though. And springtime, to me, there's a couple of things. It's funny. Sean Scribner was saying springtime, if the azaleas are blooming, it means pontoon boats and 10-foot ladders coming to an inlet near you. That is hilarious because he is right about that. I've seen a lot of ladders ratchet strapped to the front ends of boats to try and get people a little extra elevation. But springtime to me means a couple of things. Obviously, we look forward to the cobia season. Cobia are one of the main species that we like to target. Especially if they're free swimming or on rays where you can sight cast to them. Even fishing them on bait pods where they'll float above the bait pod. To me, that's a lot of fun.
Or even down below when you dump a jig through the middle of the bait pod and get a thud.
And you get that thump.
Yeah.
And it's not bluefish gnawing at it. That's always a fun time. But other species that I like, in the springtime to me, snook seem to just get a little happier. And I catch a lot more snook in the spring. And then, March and April, I really like to target the big trout.
I was just going to say the same thing.
And so as we get into those slightly warmer mornings and those, lighter breezes and the flowers are starting to bloom and there's a sweeter smell in the air, I think the smell more than anything gets me in trout mode, if you will, because everything's starting to bloom in the springtime, and so the air, the scent in the air changes, and you really smell that, especially first thing in the morning when the air's kind of heavy. I think it concentrates all of the scents, if you will.
Well, I don't have to have 15 jackets on, so that's definitely nice.
Yeah.
The only thing with it is, how long we have this cold, because then all it does is delay and delay and delay, and then we get that limbo where it's been so cold for so long. You're kind of waiting for that pattern to switch, and how long is it going to be until it finally
Until it
freaking
does,
changes? So, the big trout and the snook, and even our big redfish, we'll still get some big reds that I'll do a lot of trips for in the spring, and you have small clusters of them, and around the full moon, and then after that moon kind of passes, they spread out, and you'll find one here, one there. So you may be trout or snook fishing, and the next thing you know, you pop a big redfish or two.
40-inch red jumps on your bait.
You never know. Springtime, you got a million opportunities, and sometimes we get early season tarpon.
Yeah.
We'll get those showing up, and then summertime is what everybody wants to get.
Last spring, last year was, like I was saying, was kind of it was a great year for fishing because we had good conditions all winter long, pretty much, and it was surprising at how early the tarpon showed up last year.
I was catching them in end of January, February. Yeah. I mean, like massive schools of a couple hundred to 1,000 fish.
Crazy that we got, those opportunities. I don't think we're going to have that this year.
I think it's been too cold.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen. But as that weather starts to change and the water temps get closer to 70 degrees, 71, 72, that's when they really start to show up in better numbers. And so I'm hoping that we'll see that again this year.
Mm-hmm. Me as well. And I look forward to it because I was born and raised here. I can't stand the freaking cold. I'm ready. And cold to me is anything under 70 degrees.
Yep.
This sucks.
So let's talk about springtime fishing. How do you change? This time of the year, a lot of smaller baits, a lot of small shrimp, small jigs, small top waters, things like that. What are you looking for in the next 3 months? Let's look at the flats, okay? What are you using? What water depths are you wanting to try and target fish in? What are you looking for out there?
So a lot of it's something, I say this a lot, and it sounds kind of stupid, but something different. So, hopefully we'll have a little bit higher water.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have, your typical thing is mangrove shorelines and docks. That's two main things that we have in this area that produce fish.
Structure.
So, if I was going to give anybody a piece of advice, go to an area near you, look for a mangrove shoreline, and find a piece of that shoreline that is different from everything around.
Mm-hmm.
You may have the entire bank for half a mile that's a foot deep, and it's got mangroves. Okay, well, that's very common. But
it all looks the same.
Look for that, section in that area or close within that area. That is a 6-inch depth change.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything drastic. Or look for where you might start seeing some little silver mullets, or you might see some big black mullets.
Or something like a tree, a branch, or something that sticks out farther
than the rest of the bank.
Or lays down in the water than the rest of that bank. So there's your thing that's different.
Exactly. And so all I do is I relate back to years prior on certain areas that I used to do good because I did that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I fished the Banana River a lot. I fished the Indian River a lot. Wintertime, I fish the Mosquito Lagoon a lot, but I don't fish there quite as much in the summertime because I don't have to.
Right. You don't have to drive 40 miles to get to the boat ramp when you can only have to drive
10. Yeah. So I'll, fish a lot of the stuff that I really grew up fishing, and that was the way that we figured it out, was fish with my dad. We'd start around spoil islands. Spoil islands always have fish.
Yep.
They don't always have the size fish or maybe the species that you're looking for. But that's kind of the way that I learned how to fish, was just looking for things that were different, pieces of shoreline that, everything looks the same, and we caught a fish here, and what was different about, that and where I got that bite.
And what's interesting is once you identify some of those areas, you can go back to them year after year, and they're still holding fish.
It may be off, it may be off by a week, it may be off by a month, or that's typical. But
the structure itself is as long as that structure maintains and doesn't decay, like say in a case of a deadfall, it doesn't decay away or something like that. Because one of the places I look at, there is 2 trees that fell in the water on a point.
Mm-hmm.
And there's deep water, kind of deeper water around the point, but the point itself is only like a foot and a half deep. Well, over the years, that one little area where these 2 trees fell, broke, whatever they did, and died, man, the snook and big trout would hang next to those things all the time. Well, now all of the little branches have basically decayed away and fallen off, and it's mainly just like the 2 main pieces of trunk.
Mm-hmm. They don't like it as much.
Yeah, 1 or 2 times you'll come across it, and the fish will be there. But yeah, when it had all of the little side branches and things before they all fell off, got beat up by the hurricanes or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and broke off. That area, I mean, it was like, okay, guys, get ready because you're going to get a bite here. This is getting ready to happen.
Game time.
Yeah, and if you weren't on point before, you need to be on point now because it's get ready. And they're good fish. They're going to be nice sized fish. And now, and this has been a span of 30 years, now it's not nearly as productive.
Well, I've seen a lot of stuff like that.
But I go find another place where there's a fresh blowdown.
And there you go.
And then all of a sudden, maybe the first couple of times you go by it, it's not really there. But then after a while, all of a sudden, the fish kind of find it.
Or you go dock fishing, you find it. You got docks that have been here for 50 years.
Yeah.
And one of them's finally broken down, and it's laying in the water halfway. It's like the rest of the docks all around it, they're still holding strong. Yeah, they got some barnacles, but they're not broken down and hanging out in the water like this one. And that's the stuff that makes the difference. And honestly, it's paying attention to the little things, because you can go to a lot of places in this river system on either shoreline, and if you spend enough time in on it, and once you find something, whether it be a trout, or you find mullet, or you find you see big snook, or a couple big redfish,
it could be anything.
There's a reason for it being there. And if you use that reason why and find another particular area that's similar, well, you figured out your pattern.
Yeah.
And you can either make a mental note or go home and write it down and use it again in the future. I look at everything from the water temp, from what the moon's doing, to what the water height is, because water height has a big, that's the big impact right there.
Yeah, it really does. It's a big concern or consideration when you're looking at a specific spot, whether it's going to hold a fish or not hold a fish.
And wind direction. There's some places that are good on certain winds, and then there's certain places that are good when the wind's blowing right up freaking against it. And then there's other places where if the wind's blowing right up against it, go somewhere else, because you ain't going to get a bite.
Too muddy or stirred up or churned up, and the fish don't want to be there. Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to continue this conversation when we come back from this break with Captain Alex Hughey and myself, Jim Ross. So don't go away. Catch Your Memories coming right back at you. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in every Saturday right here to Catch Your Memory Outdoors. You can, if you want to go back and listen to the shows or watch the shows again, you can always go back to our Facebook page, Catch Your Memory Outdoors, or you can go to Captain Jim Ross on YouTube, and you can see it there as well. So, like, if you missed part of what Captain Alex Hughey and I were talking about during a certain portion of the show, you can always go back and watch it there, and that way you can get caught up on that. So, just wanted to keep you guys informed on that. This segment of the show is brought to you by Petrucci Insurance, and I was kind of telling earlier in the show, in the last hour, about how they kind of went over and above and got Justin a policy hooked up real quick. All I can say is they're looking out for you, okay? They're an independent insurance agent, and so they have multiple sources that they can draw from, and they're trying to get you the best deal. My renewal for my house is coming up. My renewal for my trucks is coming up. Both of them had incredible jumps. So if you guys and gals haven't gotten your renewals yet this year, you better start saving right now. Captain Jim's letting you know, you better start putting some money aside, because if you thought it was high last year, you ain't seen nothing yet as to what's coming, because all of the insurance companies have just raised their rates, and some of them went up almost 30%.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I know mine jumped a lot. So
My truck, and I bought a new truck, okay, and we got rid of the old truck. So there's a difference in pricing there. But
And
still,
year.
my truck policy went up $2,800 a year.
Holy smokes.
That was the increase. Yeah. $2,800 it went up this year.
Golly.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
House went over $1,000. Same house. Been there since 1963. Cinder block with a metal roof, rated at 120 mile an hour. Went up over $1,000.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, like I said, but Patricia went ahead and did a rate check, sent it out,
Got you the best deal.
got me the best. That was the best deal. Is the company that I was with is actually still the best deal by over $2,000 on my house.
That's a lot.
Yeah. The next closest competitor was $2,000 higher on my house. That's crazy. That's just crazy. So nobody likes to pay for insurance. I am leading that parade. I'm holding the front banner on I hate paying insurance. You know, I'm on the right side. You're probably on the left side over there holding the other side of the banner, aren't you?
I'm not on the left side. Don't get into it.
Well, you know what I'm saying. The left side holding the banner up, you know, as we're walking down making the march. But all I can say is don't get overcharged. Call Patricia and let them do a rate quote for you, because it is worth it. It's insane what the insurance rates are going up this year. We're gonna go to the phone lines. We got Donald Waberman on the line this morning. Good morning, Donald. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Hey, Captain Jim, Captain Alex. Hope all is well.
Everything is going good. Are you receiving a little liquid sunshine yet this morning over on the West Coast?
Not yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
And I'm glad my outing was last Saturday and not today. But we were at Fort DeSoto last Saturday with my kayak club. About 15 of us showed up.
Yeah.
And it was so great to see how clear the water was. I was fishing, hitting a bunch of docks. There were no fish there because the water was still too cold.
Okay.
But it was nice to see how clear it was. Caught a bunch of trout, small trout, and about a 23-inch ladyfish. This thing was massive. That's got to be one of the biggest ladyfish that I have landed. I mean, usually you hook them, they jump, but this one actually I hooked through the side of the jaw and got him to the boat and got him in. And my friend Dave says, "What are you going to do with that ladyfish?" I said, "I was going to put it back." "No, give him to me."
I need him for bait, right?
Yeah, so he went to a spot that we both had fished before, and he caught about a 25-inch redfish off of that. So that was pretty cool. And he goes, "You want a chunk?" I said, No, I'm just going to use my paddle tails. I said, "I don't care if I catch a redfish or not. I'm just great to be out there." There was like no wind up until 11 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, the wind started blowing. It's like, oh, man. And it was pretty choppy, the ride back to the launch.
To the launch, yeah. Hey, I got a quick question for you, Donald, because I haven't fished there. Man, it's been years since I fished there when I was back fishing the Redfish Tour. But, I used to launch out of Maximo a lot, and I would fish up in that northern part around Tarpon Key and all that. But have you fished around East Beach, on that eastern point of DeSoto lately?
That's exactly where we launched from was the beach area,
Okay.
right by Tampa Bay Watch.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's where all the docks that I hit. I think when the water warms up, the fish will be back on those docks. But that's exactly where I fished.
Gotcha.
So that's the west side. I take that back. I'm sorry. That's the west side. I didn't hit the east side. I was thinking that, no, that's the west side.
Okay. So you remember I had told you a couple of weeks ago that I fished a canal real close to Tierra Verde. Verde.
Yeah.
And I was fishing Jackass Key, around Jackass, and I fished in the canal. So I'm looking at my phone, and so I'm kind of giving you the waypoint or the street names here. There's a street that says 13th Street Southeast. That comes off of the 479, which is the main road that goes all the way down to DeSoto, okay? But up at 13th Street, there's a TD Bank on the corner of 13th and 429. You know where I'm talking about?
No.
Okay,
But,
well, right behind it.
I do.
Right
Actually,
behind.
I've got the map open, so
Okay.
I do see that.
Right
I do
behind
see
that is a
13th Street
canal.
and the TD Bank. Yep.
And that canal runs north and south and goes all the way up to the cut through by the marina, that goes under the bridge. That canal that runs north and south this time of the year was absolutely loaded with giant sheephead.
Wow. Yeah, that's Paradise Key, it says.
Okay.
Party Key, Paradise Key.
And I don't know
Key.
I don't know if anybody has, if you've talked to anybody that's fished in there lately, but I was just wondering if that was still holding. I'm talking about the pilings on the docks had 5, 6, 8 sheephead each on them. And it seemed like the whole canal was just loaded at that particular time. And it was in the wintertime. It was a January or February. I think it was a February tournament, if I remember correctly. So I was just wondering if you might have been over there, if you had talked to anybody that had been over there, because, as far as sheephead fishing goes, if you went in there with some fiddler crabs or sand fleas, you would absolutely wear those fish out.
Well, I'm looking at the docks where I fished. It's actually across the street where it says God's Island, and all those houses there. You can see where Tampa Bay Watch is, and then all those houses going north is all those docks I hit.
Okay.
And there's now Panama Island right there. That's between Panama Island and the other island right there is where redfish like to run through there. It's a big giant, and it's a deeper, and there's no grass there. It's sand, and redfish love to run through that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's all the docks that I hit, but there was zero fish. It was just so clear, but I think the water was too cold.
Could have been. We've been dealing with some cooler than average temperatures on the East Coast here this winter.
Yeah.
So actually, Alex and I were kind of talking about at the beginning of the show how we've had to alter our patterns, and actually in some cases target different species than we've targeted in years past because of some of those cooler temperatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was just nice to be out there. I hadn't been out there in a while because every time I try and get out there, it's just the wind has just been crazy, and in a kayak, it's just really difficult.
Right.
I've never inshore fished on the West Coast. Now that I think about it,
Really?
only like the inshore gag fishing and
Up a little farther north.
Yeah.
Up around
yeah,
Home Assassin stuff.
yeah, Bayport, Hudson. That's normally where we go. And
Hudson, what's cool about fishing Hudson is you can go down to, what's the name of that island that's just south of Hudson? Anclote Island, I think it is.
Anclote Key, yeah.
Anclote. And, man, there's some really good snook around there. There's redfish on the west side of it in and around those mangroves. And the east side is like a long beach. And in the springtime, the tarpon, or not the cobia swim by that. A little later in the season, the tarpon swim by it. But in March, April, late March, mid-April, the cobia swim up and down there, and the water's so clear you can see them way out.
The one time we put in it was Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
I literally was sitting there chumming for pinfish, and a stingray comes up, and my buddy goes, "Oh, look at the little shark," and I go, "That's a freaking cobia."
That's a cobia following the stingray. Yeah.
We're 5 minutes from the boat ramp.
Yep.
Like, man, this is freaking sweet.
Well, we appreciate you calling in this morning, Donald, and I'm glad you're not on the water today. It looks like it's getting ready to get a little moist over there, but hopefully you get a chance to get back out here in the coming week.
Yeah, March 9th, in fact, we're launching from Maximo Park, the beach there, and fishing Indian Key. Alex was talking about, up there by Hudson, it's a great area, Spillman's Bayou.
Spillman's Bayou. Okay.
Yep, that's just a great area. There's canals that run through there, and a lot of mangroves. And took a friend of mine up there, on his boat, and showed him some spots there where it's too far for me to go out kayaking, but I knew where the spots are, and we caught some big trouts, trout like 17 to 22 inches.
Nice.
With them. Yeah. So that was pretty cool, showing him some areas, because he keeps his boat in Hudson at a marina. So
that's one of the things that I really like about living in the state of Florida, is that you're within a 2 to 3 hour trailer
Of anywhere.
of basically anywhere. When living from Central Florida, if we want to go to the West Coast, it's a 2 to 3 hour trailer.
Except the Keys.
Except the Keys. You want to go to St. Augustine or Jacksonville from the Space Coast, it's a 2 to 3 hour trailer. You want to go Fort Pierce or St. Lucie, it's a 2 to 3 hour trailer. There's even going over to like Punta Gorda, and Charlotte Harbor area, it's a 4 to 5 hour trailer. It's like going, to the Keys, but you can get there in a relatively short period of time and go fish for half a day or a full day, maybe spend the night at a motel or something, or an Airbnb, fish the next day, and then come back home that evening. We can do all these little mini vacations, if you will, and just go explore new areas.
Well, if it's crummy on one coast,
you can just drive to the other coast.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be that bad on the other coast.
That's kind of one of the things that I miss about fishing the redfish tours and the kingfish tours, is going all over the Southeast and seeing the different fisheries and trying to explore and figure out those fisheries. A lot of times, it's a challenge. It's a lot of fun. When you have success, you're happy about it. When you don't have success, you
mad at the world.
You're mad at the world, but you're still kind of happy about it, because you're going, you know what? We did this, and this, and none of that worked. So the next time I go back there,
do something totally different.
I'm going to try this, and this, and see if it does work. So it's all just an interesting little puzzle, if you will, to try and put everything together. Well, Donald, like I said, we're against the break. We appreciate you calling in, but we will hopefully hear from you in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully you've been able to get out and catch some more fish.
That's right. You guys take care. Stay safe, and tight lines, everyone.
Okay, have a good day.
Bye-bye now. Hey, gang, we're going to have our next break, and Captain Alex and myself are going to be right back with Catch a Memory, so don't go away. We were talking a little bit about the springtime, what's coming up, talking about this bigger trout, talking about this snook, talking about things like that. One of the things that in the springtime always happens is ladyfish. And ladyfish are a two-edged sword. Ladyfish, when you've got anglers on the boat that appreciate them and can have 15 or 20 or 30 minutes of fun with them, to me, that's so much fun. I love catching ladyfish.
You better have some good cleaner for your boat.
That's where I'm going with this. That's the double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Keep the ladyfish out of the boat, because the second you bring it in the boat, the second that its tail touches the deck, it starts pooping.
It's insane.
And it's pooping and slinging poop, and it's wiggling, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's a poop sprayer. It's a living poop sprayer is what it is. And one of the things that really makes my job so much easier, and I know yours too, you use Starbright products. Any kind of product that has PTEF in it, or PTFE in it. So the wash and wax, the boat wash and wax, has a PTFE. The deck cleaner, the deck wax, the regular polish, marine polishes, all have that type of a slick agent. And it's so nice that when that fish touches the deck and starts doing what it does, because there's excitement in the boat. And we, sometimes when the adrenaline starts flowing, you go deaf. Your anglers go deaf on you, and you tell them, don't swing it in the boat, and it swings in the boat anyway, because they're excited. And so anyway, long story short, the products that have that particular polymer in them are by far that's what you want to be using. And so I use the boat soap, the boat wash and wax. I use the non-skid deck cleaner, and then I use the non-skid deck wax over it. And in the springtime, I'm typically putting the non-skid deck wax on the boat once a week. And I just spray it down, and I just
hit it with a brush.
I just deck brush it on, and I leave it. They say you can rinse it off if you want. I just brush it all in, and I just leave it on there and let it dry. And man, life becomes a whole lot easier.
This is very true. The the wash and wax too, and then there's one other product that I use a lot, and it's the it's like the speed detailer.
Yeah.
Yep. And basically, it just shines everything up, and it makes it look
It puts
new.
a nice
It's
coating
got a
on it.
nice,
Yep.
and, because the salts are our enemy. So, at the end of the day, especially with my Maverick, I'll wash my boat with the wash and wax, and then I'll take a rag and I'll take that speed detailer and
Yep.
I'll wipe the whole outside of the boat on my platforms down, and it just
And the
eliminates all
motor.
the salt. And the motor,
Yeah.
the cowling.
The cowling on the motor really,
Mhm.
it keeps all that salt buildup from getting on it too. So, great products. Check out the entire lineup of Starbright products at starbright.com, but specifically look for those products that have the PTFE in it, because those particular products make your life way easier at the end of the day. That's for sure. Got Rodney on the line. Gonna go to the phone lines. Got Rodney Sayre calling in. Good morning, buddy.
Hey guys, how are you all today?
We're doing good. Well, how was the Flamingo Eco Tours going for you?
It was better than the shrimping that night. Let's put it that way. But so can't complain though. It was beautiful weather for once. I feel like it's just been nasty weather every day, and at least it was a nice day of weather.
Yeah, we've had some trying conditions here this winter, but it's it can't last forever. I'm looking forward to more sunshine, that's for sure.
Right?
So,
Exactly. Same here.
I took some friends out last Saturday after the radio show. We just jumped in the boat and ran up and took a couple.
I saw you actually heading north.
Yeah.
Like at 11 o'clock. I think.
Yeah. We went up and saw the flamingos, and then we drove all the way up to JB's and had some lunch, and then came on back down. And it was just a nice day to get out, and it was a beautiful day to be on the water. But Rodney,
I'm not doing that today.
Rodney called me and he says, all right, you're getting me in trouble here because my wife now wants to go see the flamingos. So this is your fault.
She's been wanting. She's been wanting to go see him. She's originally, she was living out in Merritt Island when we met, so she saw on some of the posts that they were out there. She's been asking. I was like, oh man, I got to go look for these daggone birds.
I was impressed with how big they are.
They are tall.
I never thought that they were going to be that big.
Yeah.
And
they tower over the white
pelicans. There a couple years ago. So, but yeah, it was awesome. They were right where you said, Jim. So you gotta, if you ever quit fishing, you can do some eco tours.
I can do some eco
right
tours.
Where they were.
Well, I pay attention when I'm riding up and down the lagoon system, trying to figure out where things are at and things that
there you go.
When you got pink birds standing out in the middle of
4 foot tall,
4 foot tall pink birds. That's a pretty good indicator that you're you can see that for a long way off. Well, what else have you been doing?
Well, I'm just back in town. Been up in North Georgia for Hook doing some stuff, but I wanted to let everybody know. I was really excited to see that the American Sport Fishing Association had some stuff going on. There's some new legislatures going through in regards to all the predation that we're having from sharks on catches while we're offshore. So I'm happy to see that finally there's some at least movement in that whole thing, because it has been, as anybody who has been offshore in the last couple of years has probably experienced the issues that we have with just the sharks just destroying a lot of our catches. So I just wanted to let everybody know, ASA's got some good stuff going on in regards to that, and they're really helping us out and they're listening, because that's been a main issue that we've all been dealing with, to the point that it's been so bad. I know for me that you literally have to leave fish because you just can't get them to the boat. There's just no sense in it. So all you're doing is killing the fish every time you hook them.
Yeah,
so,
and rewarding bad behavior.
Exactly, and it's definitely, what you just stated, it is a behavior now. It is definitely a behavior, and a lot of those sharks, specifically those sandbars, have figured that out, and they are literally that is their method of hunting now, is to follow any boats on the reefs or on 21, 27 fathom. They just follow the boats. They know they're going to get rewarded. They just follow the boat and wait.
Yeah,
So,
because they know the boats. They're like the dolphin in the Banana River. You get a Rapala skitter walk out and start throwing that on the flat, and the dolphin come because they know that if there's a trout around, it's going to eat that skitter walk, and you're going to end up releasing it, and then they're going to eat that trout. I mean, it's a learned behavior, that is for sure.
I had a wreck that I would pull up to near shore and get a mile from it. I'm literally idling to it, and the bull sharks would literally come up and find me every time I pulled up, and I'm like, what the freak?
Well,
like, we're not even close to the wreck.
It's nothing to be out on the reefs like 8A. I haven't been in Pelican in a while, but 8A, Chris Benson, even some of the near shore reefs to the north, like Coast Guard Bottom and whatnot, you'll be trolling and you see some type of funky shadow, and you look and see, and they're literally under the boat, 20, 30 feet down, and they're literally just swimming with the boat, just coming along. They're just waiting.
Sandbars and bulls.
It'll shut your bite down. Yeah, it'll shut your bite down. But then when you do get a bite, you see the shark just veer off instantly. So, and it's I've upgraded tackle personally to heavier line and heavier leaders, and for king mackerel fishing, heavier hooks and wire, just for the point of trying to get the fish to the boat a little bit quicker. And honestly, you can't. You almost have to just put it in freeze pool and let the fish run a good ways before you can even fight it. So it's a shame is what it is.
It is. Well, I'm glad the ASA's jumped on that, as we definitely need something.
Exactly.
Personally, I would like to see near coastal, a limited near coastal inside of 25 miles, shark fishery, long line fishery, or short line fishery, or whatever kind of dropper line you want to call it. When coastal shark fishing used to be in play, it kind of took care of that. And when they stopped the near coastal long lining for sharks, now all of a sudden we've got sharks everywhere. Now, do they catch tuna? Do they catch sailfish? Do they catch dolphin? Yes, they do, but
it's all about balance.
And right now we're out of balance. We're out of balance. Hey, buddy, we are against a break, but we appreciate you calling in this morning and letting us know that. Is there somewhere where people can kind of read about that ASA initiative?
If you go onto the ASA's website, you can check it out there. If you're on LinkedIn, check out their LinkedIn page, Facebook as well. But any of the social media stuff where you find ASA, American Sport Fishing Association, you can see all the stuff that they're doing. So it's good stuff.
Gotcha. Well, appreciate the call in this morning, Rodney.
Yep. No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, gang, we're going to take our last break of the day. When we come back, Captain Alex, Hughey, and myself got a wrap-up, so don't go away. Catch Your Memories coming right back. Last segment of Catch Your Memory Outdoors for this week's show. Captain Alex Hughey and myself, Captain Jim Ross, are in the studio, and we want to let you know we want to say thanks for Strike Zone down in Melbourne for being the sponsor of this segment of the show. Great place to go get all your tackle. Stop in there, apparel, whatever you need, they pretty much have it. If they don't have it in stock, first of all, I'd be surprised. Second of all, they can order it for you, so just ask them, and they'll get it. And if you don't know what you need, the people that work there actually fish. So they weren't working in the big box store putting shoes on the shelf yesterday, and they weren't, putting candy in the candy aisle the day before. They work in the fishing department every single day at Strike Zone. So stop down there, ask them what you need if you don't know, and they can definitely help you. Tell them you heard about it right here on Catch Your Memory. We're going to go to the phone lines. Captain Mark Gibson's calling in this morning. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. Great show this morning. I just wanted to kind of touch base with you on. I was listening to the shark problem that we have, but we don't have. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't have one, but we do have one. Yeah.
We don't have one.
We don't have a red snapper problem either, but we do have one. Yes.
Yeah. So here's how much. Now I have a friend that's listening this morning. Him and his son went fishing the other day. Brian Howell. Him and his wife him and his wife and his grandson went fishing with me the other day. So we ended up coming back in the river and just going up into one of the creeks. And, that one sandbar that we have, because we only have one.
There's only, they're so.
Yeah. Well, put it this way. We hooked into 7. We got 4 to the boat, and they were just all over the place. I mean, and we were in like 3 foot of water. And you couldn't get a bait past any of them. So I'm not real sure where they come up with their numbers. But evidently that one must have had a lot of offspring because these were the ones that were, they were 3 foot and they were ate up with parasites for whatever reason. And that was just one creek. I talked to Corey and Melissa. They were catching. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's the whole shark situation is just out of control.
I saw that there's a new device. I can't remember.
A gun.
Shark bands.
Shark.
Is that the one where the ticker is supposed
you
to
can put it
deter
on
them?
your fishing line or whatever. Now, I haven't tried it on a fishing line yet to see if it actually works or not. But what I have done, and I thought this was pretty interesting, last year when I was in the Bahamas, or not Bahamas, when I was in the Keys last year, we were bone fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's lemon sharks and
Everywhere.
blacktip sharks all over the bonefish flat now. And they're actively hunting bonefish. So you'd hook a bonefish, and you would see the bonefish taking off, and you would see a shark chasing it across the flat. And a lot of times, if you couldn't put enough pressure on the bonefish to get him in, you just have to open the bail, or the shark will get it. Yeah. So long story short, we were chumming. I was chumming with shrimp, and, typical bonefish, type of a game plan. Bonefish were coming up the slick, picking up our baits, and we're hooking them. Well, the sharks were coming up the slick as well, and I took that shark bands thing and I put it on a separate rod, and I just cast it out about 30 feet in front of the boat into the sand hole that I was pitching the shrimp into, and the shark would come up to it, and the ones that were on the outer edge of this sand hole was probably 7 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd go around the outside of it or whatever, they didn't really seem like they were affected by it. But the ones that swam right over the top of that shark bands thing that I cast into that hole, you would see they get right over the top of it, and then they'd bolt and they'd take off like they were spooked, like something
they didn't
them.
like.
Yeah. So there's something to it. But
Was it something like Jimmy Williams uses when he goes diving?
no,
Something-
it looks like a little football, for lack of a better term. It's kind of an oval shaped thing, and it's black, and it's got I'm sure it's got some kind of magnet or something in it. But it was really interesting to see their reaction to it whenever they came and got right next to it. It was like somebody poked them, and they would just take off.
That's very
They
Yeah.
also have this new thing out. It's called a Glock. FWC is. I was kidding. My name's Steve. If y'all were listening,
we were all
totally
thinking
a joke. Totally a joke. But
Keltec just came out with a new 410. Holds 14
But we're
rounds, by the way.
we need to
we're
start treating them
kidding,
like hogs. Get up in a helicopter.
for the listeners.
Spray.
But yeah, no, it's definitely a problem. And I tell you what, and I know you got to go, but a lot of these surveys that all these people are doing and stuff like that, that's doing nothing basically but hurting us. When you go in and you're filling out this survey, hey, what did you catch today? How many sharks did you get? Da, 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 da. All they're doing is using all that information against us. It's sad. I've noticed that, hey, if you stay in the river, give up those federal permits, you have least you don't have a lot of interaction with them anymore, and that's kind of what I'm doing. Of course, my buddy Jim Ross never told me how hard the river fishing is. It's the moon and Jupiter and the space station and Mars and all that's not in the same line. Yeah, it's been. I tell you what, though, it has been super tricky in the river here lately.
Well, that's where you get into your captain's bag and you pull out your tricks and you make it happen. You do that captain stuff, Got to do some of that captain stuff.
So
Gotta
it's
have
like
your
a
magic dust.
hat. It's basically you just reach in there and pull out whatever and try it.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell you what, though, the big bluefish yesterday. Now you're talking. I don't know how big those things get. 20 pounds or something maybe. I don't know. They were catching them yesterday at the end of the rocks.
Yeah, they
And boy,
left Canaveral and they went north.
I'm telling you what, they were some monsters yesterday. Of course, the naughty diver didn't get into any, but everybody else seemed to be catching them. But it was a good trip. Water temps warming up a bit, so that seems to be helpful to a point. But I did hear tales of snook hanging out around the big bridges.
Well, that's good to
and,
hear.
Hey, and real quick, what's that red algae tent that was on the water down there towards Edgewater?
I'm thinking it's probably some kind of algae that's blooming off of the septic tank discharges. Because the water had gotten back high again. It went low and then it got back high, and it got like really high up there.
Yeah.
Last week when I was up at JB's, the water looked like it was summertime levels. It was so high, and I'm sure that probably affected and got into some of those lower septic tanks that are along the lagoon system there, and let that algae start to feed on some of that seepage. Well, buddy, we got to go. We appreciate the call this morning, and we'll have to get out there and bring our Glocks with the next time we go fishing, I guess.
Absolutely. Just for target practice. That's for target practice. All right, look, Jim, y'all did a great show this morning, and we'll be seeing you here in a couple of weeks. And Paul, love you as always, and you guys have a good day. We'll get out there and catch a memory.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
All right, got to see you.
Bye-bye now. Yeah, he's not wrong about the sharks. They become an issue. In fact, this year you and I both experienced sharks chasing our tarpon around inshore, and that's
doesn't happen
unusual.
here often. Yeah,
that's really unusual.
I saw a freaking thresher shark
really
up on the tip of the Cape. Literally,
thresher.
Yeah,
I've never seen one of those.
I never had ever seen one either, and the only way that I could tell that's what it was the tail was it was undeniable.
As long as the fish almost.
And
yeah.
I saw a small sawfish in the Banana River this year too, which
Really?
I never saw that, and it was only about 3 feet long, and I had never seen one ever in the river here, and I know they get them around some of the inlets, like down south Fort Pierce, around Sebastian and stuff, but I never heard of anybody seeing them or them being this far north in the Banana River.
Well, with the water quality getting better, with the half-cent sales tax, that's all of the things that it's going to help with all of the federal and state funding, the clam restoration project, all of the mangrove plantings that's going on, all of the things that's going on to help clean the water. I'm hoping we start seeing more of those unusual sights, if you will. I long for the day where we see permit back in the lagoon again. I haven't seen permit in the lagoon in 20 years, but when I was a kid growing up, we used to sight cast them. We used to sight cast them on the Port St. John clam flat.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the biggest schools of permit I've ever seen, I saw on that flat, until one of the commercial netters came and netted it, back when gill netting was still.
Thank God that's gone.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Well, buddy, how does I appreciate you coming in this morning. It's been a good show. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. How does somebody get a hold of you and do some fishing with you if they want to get out with you?
You can either go by phone, which is 321-795-8566, or go to my website, and it's alexhughey.com. Instagram is another good way. It's Cap_Alex_Hughey, or Alex Hughey on Facebook as well. So
Gotcha.
This might be a record. We got me in here twice, and back-to-back months.
In 2 months, yeah. Well, it's always a pleasure having you. Well, guys and gals, for Alex Hughey and myself, Jim Ross, do exactly what we're going to do. Get out there this week and catch yourselves a memory.